Blog Talk Radio.
Well, a very good afternoon to you. Welcome to Xandermonium, the talk show that gets you talking. I'm your host, Xander Gibb, and on today's show in part one, along with my guest co-host, TP Egar, I will be looking at this week's most interesting news items, and in part deux, I will be talking Free Our Marine with Chuck Floyd from Special Ops Speaks. More to come in a mere moment. So as per usual, you can interact with us during the show in the chat room at the bottom of the page. Keep scrolling down, and it will take you there. If it doesn't let you chat in the chat room, you can sign in with Facebook or Twitter, and it will make you a member of Blog Talk. So you can call us with your questions and comments and to weigh in our topics, or start your own on 347-884-9061. That's 347-884-9061. Or on Twitter, you can tweet us. My Twitter handle is at Xander Gibb, XanderGibb. That's capital X, capital G. And Tyhe's Twitter handle is at Tyhe Paul Egar, TYHEPAULEGAR, capital T, capital P, capital E. And Chuck Floyd, you can tweet him at Spec Ops Speaks. I will spell that for you. It's SPECOPSSPEAKS. Tweet me if you're too shy, and I will make your point for you. You can go to the show page for today. Go to www.xandergibb.com and click on today's show. All of the links are there for the guests and their Twitter and Facebook details, so it's all there for your perusal. Oh, yes, indeed, it is. So in another busy week, after praying for warmer weather, I found 86 degrees in NYC was a tad unbearable, and I spent most of the week riding inside for one project or another and making arrangements for my upcoming book tour. I'm an author, you know. So it got me to thinking about how much one can achieve if we just apply ourselves. And that which stands in the way of our success is far more often than not us, or to be more specific, our lack of faith in our ability to succeed. So why is so much emphasis placed on the negativity of failure? Because there is positivity in failure too, as we learn from failure and apply that learning to modify our methodology in the future. The ideology we breed into our kids from an early age can be concerning. In school, everyone wins and everyone gets an award regardless. What does that teach our kids about the path to success? And what do they learn about life from all that school of thought? I have learned so much from my failures and turned them into my successes, and you can do the same. Find the positivity in your failures and use it to modify your MO, your modus operandi, and apply it to your life. Oh, yes, indeed. So in other news, am I the only one that's fed up of these Facebook links that say a famous person, a person with a thermos, has died or come out of the closet, etc. And then when you click on the link, it's fake, not funny at all. So imagine if the person's family saw that attempt at humor and the distress it might cause for them. I hope Facebook wises up to this soon and stops it once and for all. That was Xander's soapbox for this week. Now, if you'd like to come on and get on your soapbox, please email us at xander@xandergibb.com. That's Xander@xandergibb.com. Oh, yes, indeed. So joining me to discuss the hottest topics is writer, broadcaster, singer, songwriter, and honorary Glaswegian. I love that phraseology, honorary Glaswegian. The one, the only, the fabulous. Please give it up for my friend, Mr. T.P. Egar. Welcome to the show, Tyhe. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm fabulous. The sun is shining. Unfortunately, I'm indoors doing the show while the sun is shining, but I'm sure I'll be out there in my bikini as soon as the show finishes. How has your week been?
It's been good. It's been very busy, though. I keep losing track of days because I've been writing frantically.
Right.
And literally sort of looking up at the clock and realizing it's 3 a.m. So it's a bit scary, but it's good.
I totally know that feeling, and you're working on more than one project too at the moment, aren't you? So it's kind of it's kind of hard to keep all of your thoughts like compartmentalized for exactly what you're working on. Because I find I keep writing about my characters when I'm doing the stuff for the show, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's not right.
Yeah, it's a bit insane. Obviously I'm writing the second book for the Reclamation Wars, but I'm also writing lyrics for my solo album with my other business partner. So it's a bit, it's kind of weird to you're right, to get your handle on it and think, well, hang on, I'm writing words here that's the book, not the song. So it's a bit strange to try and keep them two separate.
Exactly. I definitely knew I needed to take a break last week when I was warming up some food in the microwave, and I typed in my ATM code. So I was like, it's definitely time to stop now and watch something totally like mind-numbing. But what you gonna do? So I know, like myself, you share a love of sci-fi, and apparently the Enterprise crew might be beaming over to Netflix, according to recent intranet rumors.
Yeah.
Your favorite intergalactic series might be getting a reboot, courtesy of the world's biggest video-on-demand streaming company. Netflix is reportedly more than interested in remaking Star Trek, the popular TV series, that follows the interstellar adventures of the USS Enterprise. But don't get your hopes up too soon. Trekkies apparently, Netflix has put out some feelers to CBS, the company that, along with Viacom, owns the rights to the franchise. As of yet, nothing solid has been confirmed. Now, it's not surprising that the streaming service is interested in the show, but that's become a staple in geek culture, whatever geek culture is. Currently, 5 seasons of Star Trek are available on Netflix. Unfortunately, CBS and Viacom are notorious for their unwillingness to compromise on shared projects and prefer to work with Amazon, snooty streaming service, while CBS mainly deals with Netflix. And there's also premium cable networks like Showtime, who'd probably like a say in who eventually gets to host a new series. Ultimately, they are all bidding for this contract. So, what do you think, Ty? Is it time for a new Star Trek series? What do you think?
I don't know. I think they have to be. I mean, you're right. I'm a sci-fi fan. I love Star Trek, and it's Star Trek: The Next Generation is the series that's on Netflix at the moment, the 5 series.
Right.
But it would be, and Netflix do fantastic reboots of things, and also the series that have been done. There's the great Hemlock Grove was brilliant. There's the series now of From Dusk Till Dawn's been great and things. So they do great reboots of things. But the problem I think with Star Trek is, with things like that, is because they're so well loved, it'd have to be great writing. It's the stories that are important, not the fact that yet another, not yet another reboot. It's the stories that are important. And as far as going to Netflix or Amazon, I think Amazon are. I need to be careful what I say about Amazon. I put my books on there.
Yes. But, considering they're your partners in retail right now, the wonderful Amazon.
The wonderful. But I find them really expensive. They're Prime, Amazon Prime. It's £80 a year over here.
Wow.
I don't know what that. So what would that be? $150.
About $100. It's about It's about $108.
Oh, right, okay, so it's not that.
No,
but
wait, sorry, $128.
Okay. So that I think that's really, really expensive to be able to watch streaming videos. So Netflix is much more of a bargain. But again, anyway, sorry, I digress. It's stories that are important because they've tried it before, and certain series of Star Trek, and I'm going to be careful what I say because I don't want Trekkies stalking me on Twitter.
No.
But some of them that have worked before, stories have been dreadful. So, I don't think it's a case of, is it space for a reboot? It's a case of, are there any decent writers out there capable of coming up with decent stories?
I totally have to agree with that because I loved Voyager, and when Voyager ended, I really thought that they would go with something more along the same lines, like a Borg theme or something like that.
Yeah.
Because these were all things that kind of interested us, but they went kind of like back even before TNG, and whilst I did eventually get into the Scott Bakula era, it took me a long time because the technology wasn't as interesting, and I think that by now we know so much. Like I can watch an episode of Star Trek, and when I see them doing something that doesn't work with the technology, I can sit there and say, no, that's not right. You can't do a transport while you're at warp speed, and all of these things, and all of that technology goes out of the window if you take it to times, after, like just after they discovered warp and that kind of thing. So I think you're absolutely right about the writing, that it would have to be really good, but I think it would have to be after Voyager and not kind of like go back in time, as it were, because it kind of, the technology and everything else kind of gets you to a certain point. So going backwards, I think you can lose half your audience because apparently one of the big pulls with these things is all that kind of with that part of the genre with regards to the technology and that kind of thing. I mean, it was like the Scott Bakula series. I can't even remember what that was called, but it was like Men on the Moon kind of stars.
Yeah.
Stuff,
Well, I think the thing with that was, the sad thing about that was that the final series before it was axed was the only time it got interesting. But some of the most exciting, for me anyway, some of the most exciting stories written ever with Star Trek were the Borg stories. Were incredible. But you're right. I mean, if you're going to write anything new, it needs to be further on. It needs to be far more adventurous. Because I think as well, for me, some of the Voyager stories were mind-numbing. But the point is, though, it's late. It says he who there are a lot of lazy writing freaks me out. And I can't be bothered with it. And they they give you a little snippet of a story, and then they drag it out over 23 episodes. I cannot be bothered with that.
No.
Come up with something new. Come up with different ideas. Do not be lazy. Do not bore me. Because that's what happens why series die. Because viewers just go, oh, please, get on with it. What are you doing? And it's about lazy writing. So if they're going to do it, get on with it. But also, I can't be bothered by, I'm not interested in TV companies arguing with each other. Either do it or shut up. I don't care.
No, definitely not. I mean, this is what I really think is the problem. Now, I like some remakes of stuff, like they did a remake of V here. I don't know if you got that in England too, but that was absolutely brilliant. The writing was good and everything else, and so that was good. But what they're tending to do is they're not giving newer writers a chance. So what that means is they're not getting any fresh blood in the writing pool. And what is happening is it's the same old, because it's the same people writing the same shit, for want of a better phrase, excuse my language,
Well, I absolutely agree with you. But I think, the thing for me, though, with V, I think the reason that was axed as well was actually because it was too slow. And I don't know what it was like in the States, but it was played here. It was too early. It was censored beyond reason. It was absurd, but they dragged it out too long. And again, when the story started to pick up better, the remake I'm talking about, not the original,
right.
But by the time the story started to pick up, viewers had become uninterested because it had taken too long to get to the point. But yeah, you're right. You definitely need new writers. Well, I'm not saying get rid of all. There are some very well.
No, not at all. No.
But of course, you're right. Yeah, I mean, we need new blood. But you need new blood in everything, and that's the problem. You're right. People monopolise and get there and stay there and become, and that's what it does. It becomes stale and old, and it doesn't move on. There's no life there, and that's the problem. And because there's some really good series at the minute, and they're all being axed after the first season. Almost Human here is really popular. It's being axed. Intelligence, really good series, being axed. You know, and they're all, and it's because the writing's taking too long to get stories through. So, you know, move these stories through, get people interested. I don't understand what the point is of dragging one tiny little story over 22 hours. It's laziness.
I don't know what this ideology is about. You know, they do one or two series of something, and then it's gone. Did you get the thing in England with Catherine McPhee, the girl from American Idol? She was in a thing about Broadway musicals, and she was a singer. The name escapes me right now of what it was, but they did two series and then it was gone. It was phenomenally popular, you know, just like V was, and then it was gone. And I have to question the mentality of some of these people that make these decisions, because if it's really popular and people are saying we want more, we want more, we want more, why are you not listening to your viewers?
Well, no, I'd love somebody to answer that question. Actually, somebody's listening, phone in and tell us, because I've always been fascinated as to what that happened, because it's literally TV executives just saying, right, we're bored now, we're not bothering. Complete lack of respect for your viewers. But it always has fascinated me. We think, well, this thing clearly is making money, so why are you scrapping it? I'm totally fascinated if somebody explain that to me.
Yes, call us 347-884-9061. That's 347-884-9061 to weigh in on this or any of the topics that we are discussing. It was the series finale last night of Orphan Black, this series that I've really got into, and it's the best thing. I think when you see it, Tyhe, you will absolutely love it. It's a BBC production, and as far as I know, up to now, it's only been shown in America. You know, like some things, like you get it first, other things we get it first. Well, we got this first, and this is just now the second series. And the BBC haven't announced yet whether there will be a third series, but it's already after two series. You know, I think that's like 20 episodes. It's a cult classic. You know, it's like cult viewing. Right. So why they keep people in suspense, waiting to tell them if it's, you know, if it's kind of like been recommissioned, is beyond me, because I think you lose when you I was talking about this the other day, when you have such long breaks and with stuff like The Walking Dead. I mean, the breaks in between the series of The Walking Dead are so long, they're losing their viewership because things are taking so long to be redone. I mean, surely the ideology is when you are making a series, once the series is on, while the series is on, you're making the next series.
Yeah, well, absolutely, because we've got tangled up in this American idea of these gaps in the middle of seasons, which drives me nuts. And the gaps, I'm trying to remember what it was now, and I can't even remember the series now, but it came back, and I just thought, oh my God, I thought I'd finished. I'd forgotten completely that I'd watched. You know, it hadn't. It was absolutely ridiculous. So, yeah, I don't understand that either, because you're right, and I'd forgotten the story as well. I was kind of, where am I? I had to go back and.
They take the series off for for every particular holiday. Like, so Friday, if there's a holiday on a Monday, on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you don't get your regular programming. It's all like holiday-related stuff, and we don't want holiday-related stuff. And I think I speak for most people when I say this. If every week I watch The Good Wife, and I get to Sunday night, and just because it's President's Day, all respect to President's Day, but give me my freaking shows. I want to watch my shows that I want to watch, regardless if it's a holiday period or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've never understood. But we've got latched into this. I don't understand it. I don't know, because they want. Well, I think it's because they want to keep up to. They want to keep us in line with you, so we're only like a day behind you now. With the broadcasting.
Right.
But I hate it. I hate it when it's all we're breaking now until. But it'll break in December, and then I said, well, we're back in March or April. I'm thinking, are you serious? my memory doesn't last a week. You know.
Yeah, exactly. This is why even with a show that's on every week, they give you like a recap at the beginning of what has been going on, because we've all got busy lives, and most of us are involved in so many different things that you need a recap at the beginning of any show before you watch the next episode. But something totally eluded me. Like I've loved Grey's Anatomy from day one, and the past couple of series have just been so ridiculous that I'm not interested in it anymore. It's lost my interest, and I think that that's a lot to do with the writing, because the way that the writing has gone, it's just like, I don't know, it just made it so unreal. All the doctors bought the hospital. I mean, how often does that actually happen? It's like, it's ridiculous to me, But what are you going to do? I think that people tend to vote with their feet, and when the viewing figures drop, then they realize that there's actually something wrong. But it's kind of sad that they do this to really good series, and sometimes it's detrimental to the whole thing. I mean, I've known people that have turned on writers and directors and producers and will never want to be involved in anything that they're doing again, because they've changed writers halfway through the season, and it's just changed the whole genre of the show. And I think it's a concern, from a production perspective. Really, I do. Continuity is what keeps shows going.
Well, absolutely. And if you're doing it in the middle of a show, you're taking a great risk there.
Absolutely.
And it's not good for it's not good for the actors either, is it? Either really, you get into a character, and you've taken a lot of time making that character real, not for yourself as well as the viewers, and then suddenly somebody comes along and interrupts that flow. I don't think that's a good idea.
No.
So, no,
absolutely, and I get it when characters say I get it when actors say that character wouldn't do that. That's just not right for that character. When you build that character, when you become that character, you kind of get an idea of what their morals are, what their philosophies are, et cetera, et cetera. And so then when they present you with these particular scenarios, whether that would be right for that person or not. I mean, yourself as a writer. You write something for a particular character, sometimes you say, no, he wouldn't do that. And then you scrub it and write it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess there are many aspects to this. So let's talk Pride, Tyhe, because it's the 45th year this year, and the festival has lots to celebrate, and it's a good time to look back on the progress made, starting with a riot 45 years ago. The 45th anniversary of the Stonewall riots in New York City, recognized as the start of the modern gay rights movement. Oh, I said gay. Lots of people will be switching off now. Well, never mind. It will be celebrated this month. Now, the riots were in response to a police raid on the Stonewall in June 28th, 1969. Very interesting year. The bar was popular among the gay community in New York and was frequently raided by the police. Now, that June raid sparked impromptu demonstrations that quickly grew beyond police control. Now, some poo-poo the celebrations as unnecessary. What says you, Mr. Egar? Are they an imperative part of our culture as the LGBT community, or are they an outdated, unneeded celebration?
Well, I maybe a couple of years ago I would have said, no, they're not necessary anymore, and then I look around and think they're even more necessary than they ever were, because the idea that now people think, oh, well, because you can we're about to be able to get married legally, and this has changed, and you're acknowledged more, but and people think that means that everything's hunky-dory and the world all is right with the world, and it's not the truth at all. I think it's highlighted. What's actually done is highlight the problems in the world that gay people face, gay and lesbian people face more and more. And Pride just highlights the fact that we're still here, we're not going anywhere. And however many haters and molesters are out there, we're not going to lie down and play dead. So I think pride's more and more important.
Absolutely. Now we maybe not quite recently, but we have over the years been involved with Pride, both from an organizational perspective and from a performance perspective. Did you feel that was pivotal in your career to actually be involved with that?
I think it was important. I mean, it was something I was very, I didn't say no pun intended, it was something I was very proud to be involved in. And as you say, I mean, we did a lot of, we were involved in a lot of charity work all those years ago for Pride. So it was something it was important to be involved with as well. And it was, I mean, I don't know whether it was pivotal in my career, but I'm glad I was a part of it. And I mean, but you and I mean, you know, I mean, when I came out, I came out when I was 16, and that was the year before AIDS hit the headlines. Because, as you know, as you are very fond of pointing out, I'm older than you, and so I've I've been politically active as a gay man all my adult life. So it's something I don't know how not to be. So do you know what I mean? I have nothing to compare it to because I always have been this.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
I totally get it.
I mean,
there is a level. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say I always have been politically active, but also not to say that's not me kind of bigging myself up. I had no choice. We were being attacked in the streets. We were, you know, we had hate crime. We had a government that were allowing that basically.
Right.
We had to fight for ourselves because nobody was helping us. We had to form our own charities, you know. We had to help people. We were educating people about AIDS because, again, the government wasn't. So, you know, it's not a case of me saying, "Yay, look at me." We had no choice but to do that. So,
absolutely.
You know, I have no other form of reference. So that's just what I was, and that's who I am.
No, I totally agree, and I think that there is kind of like a section within the LGBTQI ABCDEFG community that I have to get that in because the acronym is just becoming. I'm all for inclusion, but you know what the hell next? I think there is a part of that community that kind of like puts their nose up to it, and I'm not sure if it's just, you know, I used to just think it was younger members of the community that have not had to fight for these rights that we have. They've kind of like just inherited them by way of, you know, us that have done the work, as it were. But a lot of older people in the community react exactly the same way. And there is this ideology that you know that we shouldn't make a big deal out of things, and we should just accept things the way that they are. But if that was the case, we would still be, you know, our community would be, the whole community would be divided, and you know, black people would still be drinking from separate fountains and eating at separate counters, et cetera, et cetera. You know, you watch me get the hate mail for comparing the gay struggle to the black struggle. But I think any kind of discrimination is, you know, it's important to stand up to it, because when we don't, you know, things don't change. In fact, things actually get worse for those particular members of the community that are affected by that level of discrimination.
Well, absolutely, and you can give people can give us grief all they want. What's the difference between, you know, racism and homophobia? What is the difference between in that battle? In the sense that we were victimised because people perceived us as being lesser than them. I'm not suggesting that racism, you know, that it's the same as far as treatment. But if gay people think, you know, we should, if they want to lie down and play dead, well, lie down and play dead, but I don't choose to do that. If you don't want to be part of Pride, don't go out and celebrate. But again,
exactly.
don't tell me that I don't have the right to stand up and fight for what I believe in. So again, you know, it's okay, live and let live. If you don't think Pride's important, don't support it. That's absolutely perfectly acceptable for me. I don't have a problem with that. But again, don't tell me that I don't have a right to stand up and be counted. I have a right to be treated equally as a human being. It's not for you to tolerate me, and it's not for me to tolerate you. I have a right, But people asking for equal rights, we've said this before. They're not yours to give. How dare you? So that's what pride is to me.
So a perfect segue into the next topic, which kind of is very connected, regarding the Texas gay couple Jason Hanna and Joe Riggs, who have been denied their parental rights to their newborn twin sons, despite biologically fathering one of the twins each. Now, the twin boys were born via a surrogate called Char Lynn, also share an egg donor, but due to the Texas law, no father is listed on either birth certificate. Now, the couple have petitioned the judge in their county to add their names to their biological son's birth certificates and to cross-adopt. But last week, both requests were denied. Dallas adoption lawyer Suzanne Lomanek told Fox that despite the legal complexity, the court would have been able to grant the adoption if it had wanted. And she also said adoptions of this nature have been granted in courts here. It is allowable, and it is discretionary with the court. It all turns on the marriage issue. This is clearly discriminatory. I mean, we've talked about this a little bit in the week. What's your take on all of this, Tyhe?
I think it's just so sad and shocking and sadly disgraceful and pathetic. And the court, clearly that judge could have said, yes, there is no problem, get their names on the birth certificate, these are their children, end of story. It's just, and I don't care what anybody says to me, it's just homophobia. It's bullshit. Sorry, I'm going to swear, excuse my language, but it's just BS. There's no other word for it. There is no other explanation for this. They could have just simply given them the children and got on with it. It's disgraceful.
It is absolutely disgraceful, and I think that if this had been an unmarried heterosexual couple, they would have done it regardless. It wouldn't have even been questioned if they had been a heterosexual couple. But Texas has a phenomenal reputation for anti-gay stuff, and I think that it's kind of concerning that the gay couples and gay individuals, people that are part of that community, get treated like second-class citizens in Texas. And this kind of goes back a long way for me with regards to the fact that some laws are state laws and some laws are federal laws, and the right to protection under the law is different in every single state. You can go from one state. You could go from New York to New Jersey, which are two different states. One is the state of New York, one is the state of New Jersey, and be subject to totally different laws and even totally different protection, which I find very concerning. With regards to human rights, there should be a standard basis for that. And wherever you live, you should have those same basic human rights, I think.
Well, absolutely. That's the scary thing, though. That's what I've never really understood about America. I mean, I know it's a huge, huge place and different states, etc., but why all the laws are different in different ways? Yeah, I've always found that a bit weird, that you can't get your act together with that. But you're right, yeah, but also that's perfect, isn't it? Yes, I mean, this has happened in Texas when it clearly could have been sorted, and you're absolutely right. If that was a straight couple, there wouldn't have been one moment's hesitation. So there you go for those people who don't think pride's necessary. Ta-da! But yeah, again, it's a little bit strange that the law, human rights, etc., particularly, are not the same throughout your country. Because people go on about, yes, this is the greatest nation in the world, really? Buy a bigger mirror. It's just sad. And before anybody phones in or whatever, yes, I am aware. The UK also needs to buy a bigger mirror, and I'm fond of telling them that constantly. So, the first world is actually, I mean, if there are extraterrestrials watching us now, they are either pointing and laughing heartily, or they are sitting with their heads in their hands, incredibly embarrassed about what the hell has happened. But we are the the first world is truly disgraceful, and we treat ourselves and the rest of the world appallingly. So it's no real surprise, I suppose, that we'll treat people this way.
I think that I was on a radio show a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about this and about how history kind of repeats itself, and when we look back in history about things that were thought to be at the forefront of what is right, etc. And they were talking about these 50, 60 years ago with when in America, like white people one end of the bus, black people at the other, and all of those things were seen as perfectly acceptable, and to discriminate against certain groups were seen as acceptable. But then when we look back in history at these things, we see how incredibly unconscionable they were. Go back even further with like the ideology that Hitler tried to spread about being anti everything, but Germans, and I just think that if we don't learn from these things, we are doomed to repeat them again and again and again and again, and that's what we do as mankind. We keep repeating these huge blunders, and some of us don't learn from them and in fact change well enough to not do it again.
Well, absolutely, and that's a big problem. But then that brings me though to my favourite kind of pet hate, which is religion, which I'm not going to go obviously into, but that's one of the big things that people hide behind, and it seems to bring them to religion and politics, the two fabulous things that ruin the world on a regular basis throughout history.
Exactly.
It brings it to its knees constantly, and people never learn.
Yeah, and I think I love how some people use these things as banners too. It's kind of like what switches on their megaphone, and it's okay for them to say these things in the name of God. I mean, and I'm astounded that some people dare even mention the name of God, and then they say they hate this section of the community or hate that section of the community, because I know your views on God are slightly different to mine, but the God that I know and love does not talk about. He doesn't tell you to hate those you disagree with. He tells you to show compassion to those you disagree with. So you're out on a limb right away for me if you're talking about hate in the same breath as God, because I just don't want to know. For me, it's an imperative to try and be compassionate, because it does not mean that you agree with someone to show them compassion. It's easier to hate. It takes a lot to be compassionate. But I think that so many people would benefit from taking on that ideology, really.
Absolutely.
So let's stay in Texas, but what self-respecting LGBTQI ABCDEFG person would actually want to? Because Governor Rick Perry has said recently that he stepped right in it when he compared homosexuality to alcoholism as something that can be fought against despite genetic disposition. He said he should have stuck to a message of inclusion and jobs, and said, I got asked about an issue, and instead of saying, you know what, we really need to be a really respectful and tolerant country to everybody, and get back to talking about whether you're gay or straight, you need to be having a job, and those are the focuses I want to be involved with instead. I readily admit that I stepped right in it, Perry said, according to a video recording of an event he was at recently, and said, I'm left wondering if I'm left wondering if his views will change if he gets reelected. Now, don't you think it's funny how many of these people speak out against things like this, and then as soon as they're elected, as soon as they're up for re-election, they change it a little bit and say, no, that's not actually what I meant, and we should all be able to live together and blah blah blah. But then once they've been elected, they revert to type.
Oh, well, absolutely. But this is the point as well. what happened over here not too long ago with the voting system was like, are people voting with crayons? It's we really need to pay more attention to who we're voting for and how we're voting and what we're voting for. Because of course people are lying to get your vote, and then they're going to turn around and it's been happening for generations. We really need to look. It's what people have done before, not what they're saying now. So before you go out and vote and say, oh no, what he's saying is lovely, yes, let's vote for that nice man or that nice woman. Look at what they were doing for the 5 years before.
Exactly.
Not what they're promising to do in the next 5 years. Because inevitably most of them have lied to you. Or us, I should say, not you. It's not like I'm not involved. And that's the important thing, because of course they change their mind. And how many people, particularly with us, and we seem to fall for it. It's not like gay people are more stupid than straight. We seem to fall for it all the time. So, tell the gays whatever they want to hear. They'll tell them we're gay friendly, and we vote for them. And tell them we're going to make the part pink. It's bizarre. And it happens all the time, and then of course they backtrack and nothing happens. It's absurd. So yeah, pay attention to look at what they've done before, not what they're saying they're going to do now.
I think there's a lot of politicians out there that pay lip service to stuff, and then when they get into power, they actually forget the promises that they've made, or they do the things that they've said, but do them so half-heartedly that they really don't kind of make any difference. The gay marriage thing here, it's totally different to what it is in England, because in England you get exactly the same rights, don't you, as a heterosexual couple, but here you don't. It's just like a Band-Aid. It's just like a certificate you could print off yourself from the computer, because you don't get the immigration rights. Because here, if an American citizen married a woman from another country, they would become an American citizen automatically, but a gay person wouldn't. If they married someone of the same sex from another country, they wouldn't be able to access to those rights. So to me, the equality issue, if you're just kind of like, putting a Band-Aid on a severed head and saying, there you go, that'll keep it on for a while, that doesn't wash with me anymore.
No.
I do kind of get that some processes are slower than others, but don't do it half-heartedly. I'd rather you didn't do it at all if you were just going to kind of like, appease me for a little while, as it were. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, absolutely. But yes, when the law comes in, I think it's next year here, equal, marriage, it's marriage, yeah. It's the same as heterosexual marriage. We have exactly the same rights, yeah.
So who will you be marrying, Tyhe?
Nobody, thank you very much. And my friend got that. A friend had a dinner party last night, and one of my friends said, "Oh, I have a friend. He's a lawyer, or is this?" I was like, "Right, stop right there. Thank you very much. I'm a happily single man who's far too busy to be dating anyone." And of course, Colton's name comes up quite often.
I'm sure if you're listening, Colton, he's going to be coming back on the show in the next few weeks to promote some of his stuff, which should be fun. I do hope that I'm going to be chief flower person at your impending nuptials. Sounds a little dirty, doesn't it?
I think I don't think anybody should hold the breath on that one. But it's just funny though. But that kind of stuck over here now, and I was like, "Have you seen this man?" But no, I'm very happily single. I'm too busy anyway. I've got books to write. But
absolutely,
I'm not looking to get married. Thank you very much.
So talking of the book, how's it doing? What kind of response have you been getting? And has it generally been a positive response that you've been getting?
I've been getting really positive response, actually, which is fantastic, because, you put it out there and think, right, I'm going to wait for somebody to just call me an illiterate idiot. But it's been getting really, really good reviews. So
so
I'm
you
really
didn't
pleased.
Get my email then? that was obviously a joke.
I'm just breathing by it, darling. But it's always getting really, really good. Yeah, it's getting very, very good response. But I'm only getting just some huge pressure now, though, because all I'm getting from people now is when's the second one out, and I'm kind of it's not going to be out till the end of the year. because it's a much bigger book, it's a much bigger story, it's a much more complicated story. So, and it's part 2, so it has to follow on. So yeah, it's a very time-consuming process. But yes, so the first one's getting great reviews, great response. So I'm really, really pleased. I'm really happy because obviously being my first book as well, my first venture into book writing, I had no idea that I was going to be any good at it. To be honest,
I'm sure it's not a bad thing to kind of want it to be really good, because that shows that you're passionate about it. But I totally get what you mean, and I won't be releasing another book this year. No way. I mean, one book a year is it's hard. For anybody that has ever thought, I can write a book, I mean, go for it. I wouldn't discourage you from attempting it, but it's like being Lord Mayor of a life, isn't it, really? Or several lives. And you've got to keep all of those lives in sync. You've got to know what they're all doing, what they all would do, what they all might do, what the plan forward is, who's going to die, who you're going to kill off, who's not going to get killed off, et cetera, et cetera. It's the most difficult thing I've ever done, because it's not like writing, it's not like writing an album, where you just write it and it's done. It takes a lot of tweaking to write a good book, doesn't it? Let's face it.
Well, it does. It's keeping track. It's memory. It has memory. I think you're right. When you're writing a song doesn't have memory. It's irrelevant. You're just writing certain lyrics, and that's it. It's 3.5 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever. But writing a book, you have to have memory, because you're right. You've got to remember what you did at the beginning and in the middle, so you can get to the end. I have to write so much down. Yeah, and characters have life force. So yeah, there's a lot of things you have to remember and put in place and move characters around, and plot lines do my head in, and deciding where I'm going to move somebody and how they're born as well, how they bringing them to life is really difficult. For me, it is anyway. And just like I don't know, it's just even the names of people in my book I have to write down, and what their spouses are called, and because it's so easy to, like, later on in the book call their spouse something else. I have to go back and look and check, and even things like when songs were released. I know that it really doesn't matter, but I know that some pretentious queen is going to say, Like a Virgin wasn't released till the year after, or something like that. So we really have to check my facts for the book. Well, I actually did that. So if people are listening, if you bought my book within the first 2 weeks of its release, you have a mistake in it. So it's because I actually got the names of 2 of my characters the wrong way around at the end of the book in one sentence, and I didn't realise until it was too late. So I had to go back in and alter it while it was published live. Wow. So there you go. So you have a different book to everybody else. There you go. It will be worth a lot of money when Tyhe is dead. When I'm dead in the next 2 years, because I'm very old. Yeah, because he's so old. He owes Noah $10. That's funny. So let's move on to our final story of the day before I pee my pants laughing. So a Columbus man, as in Columbus, Ohio, claims that he was kicked out of a bar because he was wearing a necklace with a small Christian cross on it. Jeff Russell walked into Bar Louie, and as soon as he walked in, someone came up to him and said, "You tuck this necklace in or you got to go." Russell thought that it was a joke, so he continued on his way out to the bar's patio. That's when the situation escalated. He was approached by the manager and a police officer. Mr. Russell recounted. He said that unfortunately there had been some shootings and troubles in bars as they view any type of apparently Christian cross necklace as a gang sign, and that is, if he didn't tuck it in, he had to leave. Now, for reasons that are unclear, the customer refused to tuck in his necklace, so was forced
to leave Bar Louie, who said that the restaurant policy dictates excessive jewelry to be tucked in. Now, the company that owns the bar, when they were asked if the bar viewed a cross necklace as a gang symbol, refused to comment. Now, there was never mentioned that this was excessive jewelry. Russell said he was worried that crosses are being banned, and he said, I was told specifically that it was viewed as a gang sign and you either tuck it in or leave. He said, if this is a gang sign, then I'm proud to be part of it, as this is just beyond ridiculous. Now, this really does go from the sublime to the ridiculous. What's your response to this, Ty, and what do you think of this Jesus Crips guy?
I think my first question was really, how big was this cross for them to think it was part of a gang-related jewelry?
Exactly.
I mean, was it kind of heaving it? I mean, was he dragging it along behind him?
Yeah.
Oh, no, that was, sorry. Anyway, you know what I mean. I just think that's bizarre. I mean, if it was a tiny little piece of jewelry on a necklace, who cares? I mean, I don't know. I just find that really strange. But then having had the conversation about the twins, I suppose, why would I find anything strange in America? But that's the only thing I could think of, is like, if this is a giant cross, seriously, then I could understand them. Well, giant, you know what I mean? If it was a huge cross that looked like, you know, gang bling, then I could understand them saying no, cover that up or take it off, because clearly it's gang related and it could cause offence, or it could cause trouble. But if he's coming to this bar just wearing an average crucifix pendant, then they need to get a grip, because that's just absurd. So I don't understand, unless they just didn't like him. I don't know.
I've never heard anything so ridiculous in all my life. If I went into somewhere, and I mean, it's one thing if you're not wearing a shirt or you don't have shoes on, you know, that's a perfectly acceptable rule to have in a bar, because, you know, some people might be offended at seeing your tatties out or your feet or whatever. But to tell you to tuck your jewelry in, I would have said I would have had to leave, because I think that is far too much control. And you know, the cross is a symbol of Christianity. Why? So Christians are gang members now? I can just see my vicar riding along on his motorbike with his cross sticking out. We're gonna kill you with kindness. I mean, it is pretty damn ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, what the heck next? Wouldn't there be, with greatest respect, Ty, wouldn't there have been a lot more said about this if it was a Muslim person and they had one of these Quran signs around their neck and they were told to tuck it in? That would have been clearly considered discrimination.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, no, I think it's absurd. I think it's completely over the top. But this is what I mean. I couldn't understand when I first kind of looked at the story and just thought, right, how big? But that was my first question, was how big was this crucifix? Seriously. Because to consider it gang-related or to say it could cause offence, then, how big was it? Because that just seems ridiculous. And I think it's touching its
Are we still talking about the crucifix now, Ty?
Well, who knows? I don't know. I didn't see a photo of him. Hello, big boy.
Oh,
but I just found it bizarre, But
I actually thought it was hilarious. But when I read it, I actually had to read it twice, because I thought it's just kind of ridiculous, to expect people to stop looking how they were looking just to come into the bar, and then to get a cop to come along. I mean, I wonder how much trouble the cop would have gotten into if that had been reported to his captain. Hey, one of your cops has just come up to me with the manager of a bar and said, tuck your cross into your T-shirt or you have to leave. I mean, isn't that kind of like pushing it a bit far with regards to authority? I mean, I have the greatest of respect to cops, and if I'm stopped by one, I would do as I'm told. But it's like, so if a cop says, balance on one leg and touch your nose, would you do that too? Do you know what I mean? I think there are beyond the bounds of possibility, and I think that we shouldn't always blindly accept authority. Really, we shouldn't, because I think that there are the freedom aspects of all of this too. Because I still don't get why that was wrong. Really, I mean, you see women with big crucifixes around their neck on big gold, chunky gold chains and stuff. What is the difference?
Well, absolutely, and I think it's an abuse of power anyway, isn't it? But yeah, I think that's just somebody decided they've just gone too far. I mean, they've just taken something too far. Exactly. And maybe they've actually pushed it, and they haven't been able to back down, I think, by the sounds of it, and they've just gone, they've just pushed it too far over the line.
It is certainly a worry, but I wouldn't be going back there again if they'd. And I would probably have to share on social media that I'd just been thrown out of a bar for not tucking in my crucifix, my cross on my chain. I would just have to highlight the idiocy of it. I mean, I could maybe understand if it was like the size of a like a crucifix, like a full size thing, but not a little ditty thing around your neck. It just seems to me to be dragging my crucifix behind me.
Can you leave that in the car park, madam? Yeah.
Yeah, where's the crucifix check? Never mind checking your code. You're gonna have to check your crucifix at the door in future. Absolutely. But the gang thing was what made me laugh the most. Really, it's gang symbology. Watch out, the Christians are coming. What was that biker movie in the 80s? Quadrophenia. Imagine if it was like the Methodists and the Anglicans.
But to be fair, speaking as a pagan, we did used to shout, "Watch out, the Christians are coming."
Yeah.
So,
yeah, exactly. But I think that was for totally different reasons. So, Tyhe, we're coming to the end of our time together. Now, people can find your information on the page, but do you want to just remind people where you're at and what you're doing and where they can buy your book?
Well, at the moment you get the book on Amazon and wherever your territories are. You can follow me at Tyhe Egar on Twitter, which is capital T, YHE, capital P, AUL, capital, what is my name?
No, you said it wrong, Tyhe.
Capital C, capital P, capital E.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's also the author page on Amazon at the minute. Still, the website's on its way. But I think
absolutely, there is a link to the author page on today's show page. When is your website? I know these things take a long time because my new one is in transit. It's kind of like on the way, and will be very good. So I know how it takes a while. So when does when do you think yours will be?
In the next 4 weeks, hopefully, it will be up and running. Simon,
brilliant.
My business partner and editor, the lovely man, is doing all the work on it at the minute, but he's doing some filming as well because he's also a cinematographer and video editor. So he's working frantically at the minute, bless him. Because I don't like him idle-handed. He just gets himself into trouble. So I like to keep him busy. So he's frantically working on that at the minute. So hopefully in the next 4 weeks that will be up and running because we have to settle. But also as well, as I said, we're writing and recording the solo album for me at the minute as well. So he's doing a lot of that. So, but yeah, in the next 4 weeks, hopefully the website will be up and running for Broken Flowers Multimedia. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I hope we're going to get exclusives on your solo album.
Absolutely, of course. Well,
you had to think about that one there, Tyhe. Are you seeing different radio show hosts?
I'm faithful to you there. I was just going to reveal something then, and I thought, no, I'm not going to. I don't want to yet until I've spoken to you. So So I'm shutting up.
Right. Okay. I can't really guess what that was, but tell me privately.
Exclusive with you, but obviously we'll reveal it together. That's what I meant. That's what I was going to say. Yes, sorry.
Right. I think maybe I know. I think maybe I know what you're talking about. Are you referring to our impending marriage?
Yeah, that's the one.
Right. That's exactly what I thought you were referring to. So, what are your plans for this week apart from writing, and more writing?
A little bit more writing, yeah. Actually, the songs I need to. Excuse me. I need to get the songs. I need to get the lyrics written. I don't like the music. I need to get the lyrics written. But it is. I know it sounds really tragically boring, but it's the book now as well. I'll need to get as much as I possibly can done on the book because that really is the priority at the minute. But yeah, and lyrics. So it sounds. See, this is the other thing, folks. If you ever want to get into this kind of work, it's really not exciting. The only bit of music that's exciting is that 5 minutes you're on stage. The rest of it's work.
Absolutely, and the rest of it is all just like back-breaking, mind-breaking work. But for now, Tyhe Paul Egar, thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Have a great week, Tyhe.
Okay, you too, Sonny. See you later.
Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye. That was Tyhe Paul Egar. Make sure you check out his book, Mother's Ruin, which is part of a series of books called The Reclamation Wars. So make sure you go buy that book. So Sergeant Michael Tamarisi is still being held in a Mexican jail with a potential 21-year jail sentence hanging over his head. Now, there was no bad intent with this young man's actions, and as soon as he realized he had crossed the border, he did the right thing and surrendered to the Mexican authorities. Now, even though a petition with over 100,000 signatures has been handed into the White House, the president has not as yet secured his release. Maybe Sergeant Tamarisi would fare better if he were a black gay sportsman, for then he would be ensured not just a phone call, but also an invite to the White House. So helping me to break down this issue today is Chuck Floyd from Special Ops Speaks. Welcome to the show, Chuck. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
I'm fabulous. So this situation kind of like seems to be going on a lot longer than it needs to. Now, you're a veteran and you've served this great country of ours. How does the lack of representation from Obama's White House regarding Sergeant Tamarisi make you feel?
It really perturbs me of why he does not engage the Mexican president. He had the opportunity the other day when he called the Mexican president and talked about all the illegal kids coming across the border, and we got nothing from him. And so we don't understand what it is. He'll release 5 terrorists from Gitmo for one deserter, yet somebody who served proudly and been overseas twice in Afghanistan in a combat tour, he will not lift a finger. So we think it's probably that he doesn't want to lift a finger because he had guns with him, and so he's trying to please the gun crowd.
Wow. You see, for me, the biggest thing about all of this is that Sergeant Tamarisi did the responsible thing. As far as I know, you might know more than I do about the situation, but as far as I know, his guns weren't loaded, and he actually went directly to the Mexican authorities and told them what he'd done. He'd even called 911 when he'd realized what he'd done and said, "Look, help me," and there was nothing that they could do. So there was no bad intent on this young man's behalf, as far as I can tell. It's kind of puzzling. Go on.
Absolutely not. And every week we have the Mexican Army invade the United States somewhere between California to Texas. We don't arrest their police and their army coming into our country, and we should demand. And it was on Fox News last night. Also, we have a congresswoman from Florida and many others, Duncan Hunter, and many others who are demanding his immediate release, and we're getting nothing from the administration. So Americans are going to have to take this on their own. So this coming Wednesday on June 28th, there will be a protest down at the border, and so we're going to contact the media to help the group down there get a lot of people down so we can close down the foot traffic and the vehicle traffic. We did a protest last week at the Mexican Embassy in Washington, D.C., and we had the spokesman for the Mexican government come out and go, well, if you're illegal, you cross into America, you're not committing a crime. And so, we go, what? Are you kidding me? Absolutely.
Wow.
And so we have film. It's on our website. If people could go to www.freeourmarine.com, you'll see that video of the Mexican spokesman saying, if anybody who's illegal coming across the Mexican border into the United States, it is not a crime. But if you enter Mexico and they catch you, it is a crime.
Well, let's face it. Mexico is busing children and by the shed load right now, and America is just kind of like welcoming them with open arms, which I think is a huge concern. But I want to go back to something you were talking about a moment ago. You were talking about the swap for 5 top Taliban terrorists for one deserter, Andrew Bergdahl. Now, lots of Bo Bergdahl. Now, lots of people are saying that these two situations are not alike at all. I personally would vehemently disagree with that. Would you?
I disagree with that. Vehemently. It is very much alike. Why is Obama and the administration saying we're not going to leave anybody behind? Yet they will release 5 Gitmo terrorists who we know will go back and they will start planning to kill Americans, where we cannot go to a friendly ally on our southern border and say, release our sergeant. We want him to come home.
Right.
And Obama is not lifting one finger to help him, his mother, or anyone. So it's going to have to be up to the American citizens to protest, to boycott Mexico, and to demand his release immediately. We have a tremendous amount of power through the purse. We don't have to buy tequila. We don't have to buy any kind of produce, anything coming into our country from Mexico. We don't have to travel to Cancun and other places. Matter of fact, our family this year, we had thought about going to Mexico, and we've canceled our trip. We're not going.
I totally agree with you. One of the things that I've written about extensively is how the United States can affect change by hitting countries in the purse, and I think that they'd have Sergeant Tamarisi home within a couple of days if they stopped all aid and trade with Mexico. They closed the border off until this occurred, until Sergeant Tamarisi were freed. But where is the backbone with this president to actually stand up? He was on the phone with the president of Mexico the other day and could have just said, look, can we just, for the sake of good relations, can you please send Sergeant Tamarisi back and let us deal with anything that kind of is connected to it? But he didn't even do that. I mean, normally 100,000 signature petition initiates a level of response, but there's been no response. I want to know what this is all about, because it seems to be a bit deeper than just as seems, don't you think?
Well, it's a disdain for the military. Every time he gets in trouble, Obama uses the military to try to get himself out of trouble. You look at the recent capture of the individual from Libya. We've known where this guy was for 2 years. They captured him 3 or 4 days before they released the announcement because Obama was on the golf course. So, you look at all the history, and, he has no interest in helping a military individual. But, the kids that are coming across the border, that has been an orchestrated event with La Raza, Casa de Maryland, all the other liberal immigration groups. This has been an orchestrated event from the White House to bring these kids into our country.
Right. So would you say that this lack of assistance is indicative of the lack of general respect shown to vets by this administration?
Absolutely. You go to the VA, you look how atrocious our support for our veterans. The prisoners in Gitmo have more medical coverage. They get more assistance. You look at the TV, the $1 million soccer field, and everything else that they've done for them down there, and yet it's supposed to be a bad place. They're getting better treatment than our military veterans receive at home. I go to Walter Reed. I go to Walter Reed a lot because I live in the Washington, D.C. area, and I see our vets without legs, without arms, and, my heart goes out to them because I'm retired military myself. And, you just look at that and go, what did we go to Iraq and Afghanistan for? You look at the foreign policy. You look at the crisis that Iraq is in today, and ISIS is going to take over the country. What did we do that for? You look at the billions of trillions of dollars we borrowed to conduct these wars. It's all for naught.
Exactly. And the concern is that after all that, freeing those 5 top Taliban terrorists just spits in the face of every New Yorker that was affected by the 9/11 attacks, and every American in general. And now what this means is as well that when Americans are abroad, they're far more likely to be kidnapped because they can be used as pawns in this game of free so and so, or you're not getting your American citizen back. And it's a concern that Obama, with his lack of backbone, has moved into this territory and is put us in a dangerous situation. Because I know whose door we should be knocking on the next time we are attacked by the Taliban, because he's just given them back their leadership. And to me, that's brainless. It really is.
Absolutely. I agree with you.
You
look at Kenya right now. I've been to Kenya many times before. Beautiful country. You go on photo safaris and everything. Right now, Kenya is so dangerous that Americans should not go there because of Al-Qaeda elements. And so every country in the world now, since Obama's been in office, we've gone backwards. It's more dangerous today overseas than it has been in the past. I spent a lot of time on the multinational peacekeeping force in the Sinai Desert. And I worked with the Egyptians a lot, the Israelis, all of them in the Middle East. And, the Obama supported the Muslim Brotherhood, which is a direct enemy of the Egyptian people. And unfortunately, the military said, I've had enough of this, and they took back over. The military is trained and educated by the U.S. government, and they come here and they know what is right, what is wrong. They took their country back, and I think Americans going to have to take their country back.
Absolutely. So, what can just your average man in the street do in assisting to get Andrew Tamaresi out of the Mexican jail? What can we do, every single one of us, to actually make a difference in making this happen?
First off, all the U.S. citizens need to go down to the border on June 28th, which is Wednesday, from 5. Let me see what time that is. It's from 5:30 to 7 p.m. down at the border where he crossed. And this is they can go to SandiegoPatriots.com, and they'll see what's going to happen there. They also have to notify all of their congressional representatives, whether they're Republican, Democrat, House, or Senate. They have to call them and demand that the Congress and the politicians stand up. Right now, the politicians are not voicing their opinion. They are weak-kneed, and they need to get a backbone and stand up to this president and say, we've had enough, we demand this. And then if he doesn't do it, they need to cut funding to the White House. They need to cut funding for all of these programs that he's initiated. And the power of the purse speaks. But we have to have people in Congress with the backbone to do it.
Why do you think Why do you think so many people are afraid to speak out? I mean, people like my friend Dr. Gina Loudon, who made commentary about all of this recently, was attacked, got lots of vitriol. I've had it too. You know, I've been called everything from a racist to a homophobe for not agreeing with Obama's policies and speaking out against this incarceration of Sergeant Tamaresi. What has happened in America where we've become afraid to speak out about what we truly feel?
Well, it's several things. One, the Republicans, Democrats used to work together for the benefit of the nation. Now, the Democrats, in my opinion, are working against the American people for their party, and they want all the illegals to come in because they see them as future voters where they can keep securing the vote.
Right.
Against Obama, I think because he's the first African-American president, they are afraid to challenge him because, again, the Democrats and the liberal media will target them as racist. Yet they're not racist.
Right.
They do not agree with his policy and what he's doing to America. You look at everything that he's done, from jobs to the welfare, everything else, the spending. What are we up to? $18 trillion now. I mean, this is just ridiculous. You know, our country, if we continue to do this, will see it worse than the Great Depression once that bill comes.
And now he wants to spend more money to go back into Iraq and send people there to support the situation there again. I mean, why are we still fighting everybody's wars at the cost of the American taxpayer? I mean, to me, it's not. It doesn't take. You don't need to be a brain surgeon to see the illogical reasoning in all of this. Surely.
Yep. Well, I agree. You know, we've been there. We've done that. We need to let them fight it out. And then we need to challenge them and say, okay, if you plan any more mass attacks against the United States, next time we're going to come in there and we're going to level the whole country. We don't care who you are, what you're doing. We will come in there and level the whole country, give them the ultimatum. Because if we do that and they know we're going to do it, we're going to have a different president, because this president will never stand up to anybody, especially in the Middle East.
Look at the way he's responded to Putin. Ronald Reagan would never have responded in this way. I mean, this president is even afraid to make jokes about Russia. And the scary thing about Putin, you know, they've been saying this for a few years, that he's kind of like the new Hitler, and people said, oh no, you can't say that, that's bad, that's offensive. But you know, just the way he treated gay people in his country. Now, whatever your ideologies are, when you're attacking any individual group in the community, that's discriminatory, and this discrimination has spread, and he's now even attacking other countries. Do we have to wait till he attacks America? I mean, what? It's frightening, really.
Yes, I agree. I mean, Putin runs circles around him, and you know, it's really atrocious. You know, we have set up agreements with Ukraine, with Poland, all the East Bloc countries that defected out of the Soviet Union. We have set up agreements for protection with them and the EU, and guess what? We have defaulted on every one. We were supposed to put in Patriot missiles and a lot of other equipment into Poland. He pulled it out, and so immediately, as soon as he came in office, Putin knew that he was a paper tiger.
Right. So do you think that there's any truth in the ideology that a lot of this is to do with the fact that America only seems to go in and support countries where there is some natural resource to get a share of?
No, I don't see that at all. You know, when we went into Iraq has a very large oil reserve. We should have demanded oil for the money and the treasure, the people killed and everything else. We demanded nothing. And so that, you know, America, you know, Donald Trump is right on a lot of issues when he says that, you know, we are business-wise, the United States is pretty stupid. You look at how China runs all around us. And, you know, it's just ridiculous how our country acts in foreign affairs.
I mean, unfortunately, America is not seen as the superpower and super strength that it once was, and it's kind of embarrassing that we do look weak in the eyes of the world. Is this down to the leadership?
Yes, it is all about leadership and what your projection is and what you tell the world. And the world does not believe the United States anymore. They've seen us draw that red line, step over it, fall back from it. They do not believe us anymore. We have treated our allies as our enemies and our enemies as our friends. And when President Obama said he's going to remake America and turn everything upside down, guess what? He has done that in a lot less time than most people think he could ever accomplish what he has.
Well, I think that the big concern is even I was up until 2 years ago I was a lifelong Democrat. I supported Obama, but even for me 2 years ago, after his first term of office, it got to a point where I couldn't support his ideologies any longer, and I couldn't make excuses for his inadequacies anymore, and I had to even leave the Democratic Party. It totally shook my belief system, but I think that we should in this country be able to stand aside and say, no, I don't agree with that anymore.
Yep.
But I do think it is a concern that people are still believing all of this hype and making excuses for his inadequacies because we're all being affected by it. I mean, I talked last week on the show about how long do we wait? Do we wait till we're taken over by a hostile enemy before we want to impeach someone for bad leadership? I mean, it's getting scary, I think.
Yep. You go back to Fast and Furious. You look at that. You look at Benghazi. You look at the lies and the deception, and that's what the Democrats and the liberals don't want to look at. They have to look at what is best for America. One guy can destroy it, and it's okay with them. You look at our immigration policy and what he's done with his pen and his phone. He's given all these dreamers all the rights of the American citizens. You look at this guy that they just kidnapped out of Libya coming back to the U.S. They want to give him, who is a terrorist, not a U.S. citizen, U.S. citizens' rights in court. This is absolutely ridiculous and foreign to any American way of thinking.
Absolutely. Well, coming to the end of our time.
I used to be a Democrat, and I changed because I just couldn't put up with the deception of the American people anymore.
Right. Happens to the best of us, Chuck, and that's exactly what happened with me too. And I don't know. I've been called everything from a dog to a traitor for leaving the Democrats, but you have to go with your heart, because for me, at the end of the day, it's not about which part of the political spectrum you stand in. It's actually about how much you love this great country, and that should be what sets you aside from other people, not what boxes you tick on voting day. But we have come to the end of our time together. It's been very interesting talking to you. Can you tell people where they can find you and tell us the website address of your organization so people can get involved with assisting to free our Marine?
Yep, it's www.freeourmarine.com. Go there. You'll find out what we're trying to do. We will be organizing another protest in front of the Mexican embassy, or we may even go in front of the White House. We haven't decided yet. We'll make that determination this week, and we want people to help support the protest on the border on June 28th on Wednesday. And the biggest threat that our nation has right now is our national debt, because when we get to a certain point, we will not be able to pay for government services because we're going to be paying interest on the debt. And so Americans need to wake up and realize what is happening to our country, and that we have to have fiscal responsibility now.
Absolutely. Listen, thanks so much for joining us today, Chuck. Maybe we'll come back and we'll talk. We'll talk a little bit more in the future. But good luck with this protest, and let's hope and pray that we get Sergeant Tamaresi out of jail sooner rather than later. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. With your help and
Chuck
many others,
Floyd.
we will do that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir. Take care. That was Chuck Floyd from the organization Free Our Marine, which is run by Special Ops Speaks. Make sure you check out their website. Go to the show page today, www.xandergibb.com. Click on today's show, and that will take you to all of Chuck Floyd's details and how you can support his organization's efforts to free our Marine. Thanks so much for joining us. Next week, we have the fabulous C.J. Weston co-hosting, and we also have Joe Messina. So join us next week for that, and have a great week. I love you all. Bye-bye.